Musical biopic about a CGI chimp. Come on, it's not gonna be that good, right? What's up, flick fans? Better Man is the best movie of 2025. I've only seen 4 films this year, and technically I watched this last year, so oops. But it's getting a wide release this weekend. I want to confess something. I did not really know who Robbie Williams was. I know the internet's gonna hate me, but I know he's an international star, extremely talented. Why did he use a CGI chimpanzee as the focal point of his biopic? Let's discuss.
I'm Robbie Williams. I'm one of the biggest pop stars in the world.
And we have the meteoric rise, dramatic fall, and remarkable resurgence of British pop superstar Robbie Williams, directed by Michael Gracey from The Greatest Showman, which is a movie that, admittedly, I've liked more over the years. And there's drug use, language, sexual content, nudity, violent content, and we have yet another kind of edgy R-rated biopic that pushes boundaries in its own very unique way, but also features that R rating like Rocketman did and tells the story of someone who faced a lot of trials getting to the level that he is on now. This is very surprisingly an emotional story about family, from his mom to his pops to Nan, which turned out to be, I think, the most emotional relationship, the central relationship that kind of gets him through tough times throughout this film. But this is also a guy who really just wants to impress his dad. I love the sequence that we get at the beginning where he and his dad, as a young chimp, okay, he's a monkey in this movie. Nobody really ever mentions it, but he's a monkey. But they're singing in front of the television, Frank Sinatra, and I'm just like, man, this is great. Also, the decision to make him a CGI chimpanzee. First of all, the CGI actually looks really good. In a year where Planet of the Apes dropped, and I watched this about a month ago, so I saw it last year, I was actually really responding to the visual effects of the movie, which obviously revolve around our central figure, but he looks great. Very easy to empathize with, and someone you want to root for all the way through, even though he's consistently making mistakes. And the big pop star mistakes, from alcohol to drugs to depression to anxiety, things that, many of us struggle with, but to get to where he wants to go, these things are consistently getting in his way. But a lot of them serve as kind of a vehicle to struggle through these issues that he has with his dad consistently throughout this movie, because he wants his dad to be proud of Robbie Williams, not the successful pop star Robbie Williams that we see towards the end of the film, but the Robbie Williams, his son. And man, that's a story, no matter how cliche and conventional it is, if you are able to hook me via something like that, which it does in the beginning, you're going to get me through the movie. And my God, man, this is such an entertaining ride. First of all, the CGI central character thing started out as a gimmick for me. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. But literally 5-10 minutes into the film, I liked the decision, and I love what they do with it during that in sequence. By the way, the in sequence, how we're kind of building and crescendoing, and it's not necessarily, and the entire movie is painted this way, and you know that going in, right? It's not an entire reflection of how his real life story went, but it's a picture painted for us to watch and see how these things were playing out in his head. And obviously, many of them happened. I just thought that was such a cool decision from a Robbie Williams that I knew nothing about in the beginning, but by the end of this film, I'm looking up his music. I'm looking up that final scene where he's singing Frank Sinatra. Oh my God, how beautiful was that? And these moments, these entire scenes where we get to sit with him, sometimes sympathize for him, but then get to see the, not just the trials, but the great things that are happening throughout his life, from falling in love to joining the boy band, getting his first opportunity, waiting for that phone call, like all of these really cool things that happen to him along the way, but then he'll hit a wall or something will happen, or he's struggling deal with something. The person he falls in love with, she's going through something. Knew nothing about that, so obviously falling in love with someone else in that world was really cool. I like that scene. By the way, it is a musical. I've talked about that. I'm not going to sit back and say the most memorable songs I've ever seen. It's not like The Greatest Showman where I'm humming each and every one of them after the movie's over, but there are a couple in here that are absolutely magnificent. The rock DJ sequence. Let's talk about that for a second, because I'm seeing people on X, and they're like, yeah, this is such a cheesy scene. I'm sitting here going, what are we doing? This is one of the most creative and fun musical sequences I've seen in a movie all decade. We've had a lot of musicals this decade, and I think it's better than any musical sequence I saw last year.
I got, you got, we got everybody.
Well, I don't know, Defying Gravity was pretty great. So they're close. And then you can compare it to another biopic last year, In a Complete Unknown, which, first of all, I appreciate Mangold for making that one a little different, but that's a film where you're not as invested in the characters. You don't care about them as much. That's kind of the point. But with this movie, with Better Man, you're in on Robbie Williams from the get-go, even when he's kind of being a little shit to people and, not acting as an adult would act in that situation, but you see why. And even though some of the reasoning doesn't always add up to the decisions that he's making, but that is kind of the power, the influence of drugs and alcohol and all of the things that you get from being really famous, not just being in a boy band, but going beyond that eventually. But then the struggles, like how the boy band may not even want you to be in the boy band anymore. And so his journey, his story was something that I really found myself gravitating towards throughout the movie. Then you get the rock DJ sequence kind of highlighting and montaging, which normally I don't love because I want to see those moments play out. But what we're montaging through sets us up for something even better afterwards. I do believe this movie loses a little bit of steam as we get close to the end because it was really firing on all cylinders up until that rock DJ sequence, and I'm bopping back and forth. It's incredible. But then you're kind of going through a lot of the very typical biopic motions towards the end, from the second into the third act, which I enjoyed. But at the same time, I'm like, it's starting to get a little familiar, even though we still have a CGI central character. But like I said, the ending brings it all together so beautiful. Made me want to go watch the actual sequence. And I thought everyone involved, from the cast to, the crew behind the camera, some of the cinematography was really cool. Within the rock DJ sequence, you have this kind of grand one take. It's not technically a one take, but it's presented to us as that. So freaking cool, man. I just had a great time with this movie. I was rocking and rolling all the way through. And his voice is obviously, you know who he is more than I do. But now, thanks to this movie, I know who he is.
I understood that reference.
Before I give it my score, if you enjoyed this Better Man review and you're looking forward to my reviews in 2025, you want to go on this journey with me to watch all kinds of movies, drop that like down below. I appreciate it. It really helps the channel. Also, Den of Thieves 2 tomorrow. This film exudes style, delivers some phenomenal musical numbers, and features a unique draw that pays off way better than I expected. The grand story centered around Robbie Williams occasionally becomes intimate and features a surprisingly emotional finale. Like I said, I had a blast with this film, and on its surface, never expected to, but you know what? Very inventive. We had like Piece by Piece last year. The musical biopic is becoming less generic and more creative. I respect and appreciate that. And some will say, well, maybe this is masking a generic story. Possibly. There's some conventions and cliches in Better Man, but I still had a really good time with it. So thanks again for watching Best Movie of the Year after 4 films. I'll see you soon.